everyone. Welcome to the Journey of Restoration CPR Style, the Foundations. I'm so glad you're here. This is a space where we go deep into how our minds and bodies respond to stress, and more importantly, how we can step into healing, freedom, and transformation. Today, we're focusing on a small but powerful part of the brain, the amygdala. Think of it as your body's built-in alarm system, constantly scanning for danger and deciding how to react. It's designed to protect you, but sometimes it can keep you stuck in survival mode, even when there's no real threat. The good news is that when we understand how it works, we can train our brains to respond in healthier, life-giving ways. Here's what we're going to learn today. Understanding your brain's alarm system, recognizing your patterns, and taking back control, rewiring for freedom. This session isn't just about learning, it's about equipping you with real, practical tools to navigate life to greater peace and confidence.
I want to introduce you to a powerful part of your brain, the amygdala. It's the alarm system. And to really understand how it works, I want you to use your imagination. Okay, here we go. So I want you to picture yourself deep in the forest, walking along a narrow path. And there's a thick array of trees that are covering the narrow path. And the sunlight is barely coming in, and the air is heavy with the scent of the damp earth and the wild flowers. And suddenly, there's a rustling in the bushes. Your heart pounds, your breath quickens, and every muscle in your body tightens. You don't even think about it, but your body just reacted. Fight, flight, or freeze. It is survival mode. But then, a squirrel leaps out, chattering as it scurries up a tree. No predator, no real danger, and yet your body responds as if your life depended upon it. That instant reaction, well, that was your amygdala. It's your brain's built-in alarm system scanning the environment for threats and deciding if your amygdala needs to sound the alarm, whether the danger is real or perceived. To understand the amygdala better, I want to review 3 different parts of the brain. Let's think about your brain as a 3-story house. Again, this is review. And so you have the lower part of your brain, which is the basement. That's your survival brain. The foundation. This is where most basic survival functions live: breathing, heart rate, and your fight, flight, and freeze response. It's designed to keep you alive. The middle part of your brain is like the living room, your emotional brain. This is where your emotions, memories, imagination live. It's warm, vibrant, and full of stories. And then you have the top part of your brain, the upstairs, the thinking brain. That's the executive suite or the penthouse suite. It's where logic, problem solving, and decision making happen. It's where you think before you act. Your brain is wired for sufficiency. It will always take the path of least resistance. For example, the more often you think, feel, or react in a certain way, then the stronger those pathways become. Have you ever heard that phrase that neurons that wire together, fired together? It simply means your brain reinforces whatever patterns you repeatedly engage in, whether they're helpful or harmful. The amygdala sits in the middle of your brain, tucked in between your emotional and survival brain. Think of it like a smoke detector. Its job is to sense danger and to set the alarm off before you even have time to think. When the amygdala detects a threat, whether it's a charging lion or a stressful email, it floods your body with powerful chemicals. Adrenaline, that brings instant energy, norepinephrine, which sharpens your focus, and cortisol, the stress hormone that keeps you on high alert. And this is great if you're actually in danger, but here's the catch. Your amygdala can't tell the difference between a real threat and a perceived one. That's why an argument, a memory, or even a thought can send you spiraling into stress mode. When your amygdala goes off, your body reacts in one of three ways. Fight, you get defensive, argumentative, aggressive. Have you ever sent a heated text and regretted it later? That's the fight mode. Or flight, you avoid, shut down, or run, avoid a conversation, avoid someone altogether. That's the flight mode. Or freeze, you feel stuck, numb, or overwhelmed. Ever blank out in a stressful moment or can't remember a conversation that was heated? That's the freeze mode. These reactions are automatic, wired for survival, but sometimes they keep us trapped in patterns that no longer serve us. Additionally, shame is often experienced because the amygdala's response is automatic, meaning you don't choose what reaction you have. Your body chooses for you. Your amygdala can be activated in two ways. One of them is the top down. The top down. What you think about can trigger your amygdala. If your mind is filled with worry, fear, or negativity, then your brain starts to believe you're in danger, even when you're not. Or the second is from the bottom up. Past trauma and sensory triggers are present that haven't been worked through, and sometimes a sound, a smell, or a facial expression unconsciously remind your brain of a past threat. Your amygdala reacts even if you don't understand why. Have you ever walked into a room and suddenly felt uneasy but couldn't explain it? That's your amygdala picking up on something that's familiar from your past, sounding the alarm even though you're safe now. Sometimes your amygdala keeps blaring when there's no fire. That's where you have to step in and reset the system. First, you must have awareness that your amygdala is activated. So you name it. You ask yourself, what am I feeling? And why am I feeling this way? And then you ask yourself, is there real danger, or is this just my brain's alarm system overreacting? And then you name your reaction to calm the amygdala. When you say, I'm feeling anxious, but actually I'm safe, your brain starts to take back control. And then you must regulate your body. A really good way to calm yourself down faster than anything is to simply breathe. Try 4 square breathing. And what that means is that you inhale for 4 seconds, you hold for 4 seconds, you exhale for 4 seconds, and you repeat that 4 times. This sends a message to your brain you're safe. So most of us have had moments where our amygdala has been triggered. But what if Jesus is inviting you to heal? Take a moment. Is there something that's triggering your amygdala? What thoughts are wiring your brain? What if instead of reacting in fear, you started rewiring for peace, joy, and truth? Because you were not meant to live in survival mode. You were made to walk in freedom, and freedom starts in your mind.
Based on what I've shared about my story so far, it's obvious that the challenges I'd been facing prior to my encounter with God had caused me a great deal of stress and anxiety. Without the security that I eventually found in Jesus, I let my worry and concern for my daughter completely spiral out of control, triggering my amygdala, which is that inner alarm system, and causing top-down anxiety. It was quite a sobering experience to realize that I was giving myself PTSD, tripping into survival mode, fight, flight, freeze, and causing all of these stress hormones to be released throughout my body, all because I was unwilling to surrender and trust God with my life and my daughter's life. After meeting with God in that pain, I wanted nothing more than to be connected with Him and maintain that peace that I felt in His presence. I spent the next 2 years really seeking Him with all of my heart, putting the practices I had learned from this course into place, as well as relying on the support of my safe community. And I'm so grateful to God that I did, because the next time the storms came, I would be in a much better place than I had been 2 years earlier. And the storms did come. God never promised us that the storms wouldn't come, but He did promise us that He will always be with us. And this time, it involved my other daughter. My husband and I got a call at midnight on New Year's Eve. My daughters were spending the night out, and they were on the way home, and one of them had been sexually assaulted. It was one of those calls that just knocks the wind right out of you. I never dreamed I would get this kind of call. It was unreal, unimaginable. The sad truth is that it happens to 1 in 4 women. A fact you probably don't know unless you or someone you love has experienced this. But I am so grateful looking back at how God had just been pouring into me, loving me, equipping me, and showing me who He is and how faithful He is. Because even in the midst of the shock and horror of this situation, I felt a peace that passes all understanding. I wasn't in denial or minimizing the severity of this event, but I knew that God had us in the palm of His hands, and I knew that we were going to be all right. Because of how God had been preparing me, I was actually able to be there for her and walk through this with her in a way I never would have been able to before. So we went through all the things that you have to go through in the first days and weeks of this kind of event happening, with the police and the hospital and the crisis centers and the doctors. And what I began to notice was that the spark in my daughter's eyes slowly started to dim. What she was experiencing was that bottom-up anxiety that comes from a traumatic event, and it was affecting her outlook on life. She was becoming a shadow of that beautiful, happy, loving, sort of carefree teenager girl she had been before this event. Here she was, about to graduate high school, with college and her future wide open, and she was sleeping in my bed at night. She was having nightmares and waking up exhausted. She was having negative thought patterns. She began to isolate herself from her friends. She didn't want to engage in the normal activities she'd always loved. And I just knew, having learned so much from this course over the last couple years, that you start to develop habit and new neural pathways are formed in your brain. It's like her brain is that clay sitting on a pottery wheel. And as things like this touch your life, they impact and they change the shape of your brain. I knew it would radically impact her for the rest of her life. The decisions she would make, her ability to connect with others, her relationships, her future marriage, her parenting, all these things would be affected if she didn't have healing and meet Jesus in this. To be completely healed and restored and release all that she wasn't meant to carry or be burdened with, and so that she could live out the abundant life God promises. I knew that it was imperative that she walk through some of this healing sooner rather than later, before these new habits were formed and it would be easier to find restoration. So I started praying and I waited until she finally brought it up to me. And even though I felt like the Lord had given me so many tools to help walk someone through this kind of healing, as a mom, it was just way too close to home. I didn't feel confident to walk her through this on my own. And I really, really wanted the help of a community of people who had seen and done this type of thing before, who could help lead us through that. So that's when I knew I needed to get into contact with Dr. Lori and the No Boundaries team, and that we probably needed to fly out there and spend some time with them, connecting and praying and seeking restoration.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Open Up portion of today's lesson, where we get to open up to ourselves and our group. Today we're talking about something that affects all of us. anxiety. More specifically, the amygdala, the part of the brain that controls how you experience stress and fear. No deep science here today, just a chance to reflect on how anxiety shows up in your life and how your brain naturally responds to it. Let's start with a quick quiz. I'll ask 5 questions with yes or no answers, so grab your companion journal to mark your answers. No rush, just take your time. You can always pause the video anytime you need. Look over your answers. If you said yes to many of these, it shows how your amygdala is responding to stress, often triggering that fight or flight response. So now let's go a little deeper. Reflect on these questions, write the answers in your companion journal, and then it's open up time. Let's discuss with each other about your responses. After discussing, come back to the video and I will end with a closing thought. Did you have a great discussion? I hope so. You might notice a pattern in how your body reacts. That's your amygdala at work. It's just trying to protect you even when there's no real danger. Before we close, let's think about this. What's one thing you can do today to help calm your body when anxiety strikes? I know you've heard of 4 square breathing. It's breathing into the count of 4, holding it to the count of 4, breathing out to the count of 4, and then doing it 4 times. I'm going to demonstrate that for you, and I hope that you'll follow along just so you can get the feel of it. You ready? Let's breathe in. I hope you can feel the difference. Now you practice that anytime you need to.
In your walkout this week, we're going to do a quick daily reflection to help you track your growth. You will find a tracking sheet in your companion guide. Each day, simply read through those simple statements and rate yourself often, sometimes, or rarely. This will help you check in with yourself and see how you're doing. That's it. This simple check-in will help you see where you're doing well and where you might want to focus more. Write your answers in your journal every day, and by the end of the week, you'll have a clearer picture of where you're growing.